You know, there's been so much talk lately about Xbox guys jumping to the PlayStation late in the generation, and why are they doing that late in the generation? Now, you know, if you follow me, I've done several videos regarding that topic. But today I want to be brutally honest about this generation, about the previous generations. I just want to talk about gaming in general. I think I look at things a little bit different than other people, but I just want to let you guys know how I feel about it, right? First off, as a diehard Xbox guy, I will say the PlayStation 4 has been a better console this generation. Now, that's subjective, but that's my opinion. Now, with that being said, I am an Xbox guy. I play on my Xbox 90% of the time. But I will admit, again, that the PlayStation has had better exclusives this generation. No doubt about it. I don't think you could even really compare the two. I know Xbox has some decent generations earlier in the gen, but I really feel the PlayStation exclusives later this generation is way better than the Xbox earlier offerings. So yes, at the end of the day, was this generation a bad generation for Xbox? And I will say yes, it was. Even though it turned out to sell decently, it got off to such a bad start that it was hard to recover for the Xbox brand. Yes, I will admit that. But it makes me want to talk about the past a little bit. The big three, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. Let's be honest, y'all. Each one of those companies has had a bad generation. Now, let's talk about this for a second. We can go back to Sega, right? Think about how Sega, the Sega Master System was their first console. It didn't sell that well, but I wouldn't say it was a bad generation because it was their first console. They were trying to compete with Nintendo. Then the Sega Genesis was a hit. Then they started making bad decisions with the Sega Genesis, adding the 32X and the Sega CD. And eventually, when the Sega Saturn came out, people didn't want it. They kept on making bad decisions to where the consumers no longer trusted Sega. And the Sega Saturn was an absolute failure. And they tried to recover with the Sega Dreamcast, but by that time it was too late because the PlayStation was absolutely dominating. And the PS2 killed the Dreamcast. So it started back then, but then you're thinking about Nintendo. Right, every Nintendo console did pretty decently. The original NES, the Super Nintendo, the N64 did okay. Not great, but it did okay. The Nintendo GameCube, it did okay. But then the Wii came out and it just sold like crazy. Everybody was buying a Nintendo Wii. But then the failure happened. For some reason, the Nintendo Wii sold 100 million consoles. Then they released the Nintendo Wii U, and it sold 13 million consoles. Now, if that's not a failure, I don't know what the hell is. So yes, sometimes companies make bad decisions. Now, let's talk about the almighty PlayStation. PS1, one of my favorite consoles ever. PS2, the most selling console of all time. Now, the PS3, I will say it again, sometimes companies make bad decisions. Sometimes executives make bad decisions. The PS3 come out at $600, and I remember this vividly because I love the PlayStation 2 and I was looking forward to the PS3. Even though I did become an Xbox guy with the original Xbox, I still love the PlayStation. But when that PS3 came out, I said, the hell, I'm not paying $600 for this. And at the time, they really didn't have games. So yeah, even though it in the end sold pretty good, you would say the PS3 was kind of a failure in Sony's book because they went off the 155 million consoles sold with the PS2 to the PS3, which sold around 90, but at the same time the Xbox 360 sold around 90, the Nintendo Wii sold 100, so they lost some of that market share. So I would say, even though the console turned out to be okay, they lost a lot of money with the PlayStation 3. So I would consider that generation a failure for Sony. But they did start to recover. They start to redeem themselves late in that generation, which leads me to the Xbox One. We know the original Xbox came out. It didn't sell as well as the PS2, obviously, but it did okay for its first console. Then Xbox 360 sold great. And it continued to sell great, even though they had the red rings of death. It sold great. Then we go to the Xbox One. We all know the beginning of this generation, how Xbox dropped the ball. So yes, all of the big three has had bad generations. But there's one thing that I've noticed by each one of those generations, the generation after their bad generation. They started to learn from their mistakes. They learned from their mistakes, I should say. With the Wii U, Nintendo said, okay, let's fix all of the mistakes we had with the Wii U. Let's make sure all of our big first-party titles are ready. From Zelda to Mario, to Mario Kart. Let's make sure they're ready to go. Let's get our first-party titles in order. And the biggest complaint about the Wii U was the Wii U pad, whatever it was called. People said, yeah, it was cool, but I wanted to play it away from my TV. So Nintendo said, okay, let's do that. Let's make the Nintendo Switch. Bam. Selling like crazy. With the PlayStation 3, it was too expensive. At first, it didn't have the games at first. The Blu-ray player made it more expensive than it should have been. It was difficult to develop for. PlayStation said, hey, let's fix this with the PS4. Let's keep it under $400, I should say. Let's make it easy to develop for. Let's make it developer friendly. And let's create great games for it. Bam! PS4 selling like crazy. Selling like crazy. Now, my beloved Xbox. It already looks like they've learned from their mistakes. They're preparing for next generation. What was their biggest problem this generation? First party exclusives. No doubt about it. And power. Now they tried to fix the power thing with the Xbox One X, and they did fix the power issue. But they still didn't address the games. Well, I mean, they somewhat addressed the games with buying the new teams, the new development teams. So we will see what happens next generation. It looks to me like Xbox is preparing to fix all of their wrongs next generation. Yes, I know some people say, Dirt, why are you so excited about that? Well, one, I'm an Xbox guy. And the proof is in the pudding. Flat out, the proof is in the pudding. Sony has had great exclusives this generation, no doubt about it. Xbox is buying good development teams to have great games in the future. So the proof is in the pudding. All right, so that's all I want to talk about. It's about all of the big three has had bad generations. And Nintendo fixed their wrongs. Sony fixed their wrongs. And as an Xbox guy, it looks like Microsoft is going to fix their wrongs moving forward, y'all. They put all the emphasis on the Kinect, and the Xbox One wasn't that powerful. And yes, they messed up this generation. But moving forward, we will see what will happen, y'all. Just if you don't believe in this, do your research. If if you're a teenager, you're a young person, I'm speaking from experience and what I remember. These things are true. Nintendo fixed their wrongs. Sony did, and hopefully Microsoft does too. But I'm about to fix my wrong and leave this damn video. If you happen to stumble upon my channel, you think I'm decent enough, why don't you subscribe? Damn. All right, everybody. Peace and love. Peace and love.